strongly that we are in a hole. Let's talk about your boss's vow to end asylum hotels in 4 years. Let me not get a soundbite from you. Let me put you to a question from hundreds of people already that have contacted the show. Where are these asylum seekers going to go over the next 4 years? Why is it taking you 4 years? Where are they going to go? Social housing? Are you going to use?
What you're about to see is a textbook example of how quickly political talking points fall apart once someone insists on a concrete answer. Labour figures have repeatedly promised to bring the asylum hotel system to an end within 4 years, presenting it as proof that they have a serious plan to fix the crisis. But that promise only works if nobody asks the obvious follow-up. Once those hotels close, where exactly are the people currently housed inside them supposed to go? That is the question this Labour MP is forced to confront on live television, and the interviewer refuses to let him escape it. Again and again, he is pressed on the practical consequences. Will migrants be moved into social housing? Sent to military sites? Relocated into communities already under pressure? The more the question is repeated, the harder it becomes for him to provide a direct answer. What follows is not just an awkward interview. It is a reminder that announcing an end date is not the same thing as having a workable replacement. Before we roll the clip, take a moment to support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you never miss another breakdown. With that said, let's get straight into it.
Hi, I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Frustrated, my friend, and my job is to put to you in government what my viewers and listeners think. Where do you want to start? Gibraltar or the debacle that was the sort of spending review today? Where should we start?
Well, I would like to start by telling you about all of the investment that the Chancellor set out through the spending review today, which is going to renew our country. It's going to invest in people's priorities, from defence to health to economic growth right across the country. And on the back of the difficult decisions the Chancellor took last year and the fiscal rules that she implemented, that means it's now possible to have a plan like that which she set out today, which will make a real difference to people's lives, make working people better off, get our country back on its feet.
James, these are a better country. You know my job, I know your job, and you're loyal, of course, to your party and to your boss. But let's just let me explain this in layperson's terms. He says, being politically correct. You tell me that your Chancellor wants to renew Britain. At what cost? You came to power talking about an 11 billion black hole, and you promptly gave the same amount to your trade union mates. Well, I've never understood about this government, and by the way, I was as hacked off as the Tories at the end as you were, right? What I've never understood, and you are a fiscal man, it was all about growth. How can you expect an economy to grow when you have made it so very difficult for small and medium-sized businesses with your NI increases and your workers' rights ideals? How do you expect growth to happen? Because this country, in terms of growth, is not only flatlining under Labour, it's going backwards, James Murray. That is a fact.
Well, the fact is that we'll be the fastest growing economy in the G7 in the first quarter of this year. Now, look, I'm not pretending that we haven't got a lot more to do to get us growing further and faster as a country. But if you look at the decisions that we took last year, you mentioned some of the difficult decisions on tax the Chancellor took at the autumn budget last year around national insurance, for instance. There's a reason why we had to take difficult decisions. And the reason why is because of the black hole that we inherited, because of the fiscal mess that we inherited. You seem to agree that we inherited a fiscal mess from the previous lot. We had to fix that. It would have been irresponsible.
But James. All right, let me pick you up.
And not take definitive action to steady the public finances.
You came out today and you said, I want to talk about these great things. Most people in this country, I think, would feel very strongly that we are in a hole. Let's talk about your boss's vow to end asylum hotels in 4 years. Let me not get a soundbite from you. Let me put you to a question from hundreds of people already that have contacted the show. Where are these asylum seekers going to go over the next 4 years? Why is it taking you 4 years? Where are they going to go? Social housing? Are you going to use old military bases? Where are they going to go? And why is your government not appearing in her way today and saying, this is how we're going to stop them coming in the first place, James Murray? We've heard nothing about that.
Well, you're absolutely right that we want to stop them coming in the first place, and one of the things the Chancellor announced as part of the spending review today is more money for the Border Security Command. So that's £280 million extra for border security to stop those boats coming in the first place by helping with all of our efforts on that front. But for the people who are here, for the asylum seekers who are here in hotels, the fact that so much public money is being spent
Where
on
are they going to go,
costs,
James Murray? Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go then?
So what we need to do first is get that backlog down. We need to take those decisions so that people are processed in terms of their applications, so that they have to return if they're rejected, and we have a decision on their case. What is really unacceptable is for so many people to be in hotels, which are particularly expensive.
Where are they going to go, James?
And it really irritates people.
Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go?
The Home Secretary will set out the plan for the next few years and how that will work.
But the Home Secretary's just had her budget cut by 2.2% and her hands are tied, James Murray. You know that. The Home Secretary was on resignation watch.
The reason for getting the Home Office budget down is because of the savings we will make in asylum hotel costs. Now, one of the reasons for having a spending review is so that you can set out plans over a few years, because we know with some of the problems that we face, some of the challenges we face as a country, they're not things you can fix overnight, they're not even things you can fix within 12 months. You need a few years to really solve them.
So you can't tell my viewers...
Asylum hotels is a really good example of it.
Let's just cut to the chase.
Can I just make this one? Can I just make this one?
Well,
can I just make this one final point on it, because it's an important one. If you've got a plan over a few years, like we have, we've said we're going to invest up front in transforming.
What is your plan? How are you going to stop the boat? How are you going to... Okay, stop. Let me have my point. Answer two really simple questions very simply. Where are these asylum seekers going? It's a simple question. And what's your plan to stop them coming here in the first place? That's what people want, James. Where are they going?
Well, some of them will be sent home if their applications are rejected, and we want to bring down that backlog. That's the first duty, and that's what we've been doing since the election last year. And what we're saying is, for those people who are being processed, they're waiting for a decision to be taken. It is unacceptable to be spending so much money on expensive hotel accommodation.
So where are they going to go? Not the some who get deported. What about the not some who are going to still be here or are not going in hotels? It's not a difficult question, James, with respect. Where are these people going?
I said earlier on in our conversation today that there would have to be alternative accommodation for them. But the point with hotels is that hotels are particularly expensive, and it is really, it's really frustrating for everyone as taxpayers to be spending so much money on asylum hotels when there's so many other ways we could be spending money.
I know we haven't got much time. Appreciate your time. The other question from a very frustrated bunch of people is, today you've announced that the UK has agreed a fluid border between Gibraltar and Spain, which will not require checks on people crossing, not if you're Spanish. The government clearing the way to finalise a post-Brexit deal with the EU. Loads of people just ringing up and saying, can you ask this guy how in the name of God this agreement does anything for the best interest of the British people? Because even on the basis of passport showing, we will have to show our passports, the Spanish don't. How does Keir Starmer and your government believe that this deal does anything for the British people?
Well, you mean the deal that we've done with the EU, the recent deal? I mean, the point about that deal
benefit Britain?
Is about doing what's in our national interest. What we've done in terms of the deal that the Prime Minister struck with the EU recently is about doing what's in our national interest to help get regulation out of the way, to help our economy to grow, to help make sure that British businesses can export more, to bring down costs at the checkout for people because we take away some of the costs of imports coming into the UK. It's about things which make life easier and better for all of us here. Lower prices at the checkout, making sure that British businesses can export.
The Gibraltar deal, which seems pro-Spanish and anti-English, is going to benefit the national interest in the long run. Is that what you're saying?
I'm talking about the EU. I'm talking about the EU deal as a whole that the Prime Minister struck, and the reason why it was so important, and the reason why it's a.
That exchange showed exactly how quickly a polished political message can unravel when someone demands the practical details behind it. James Murray arrived ready to promote Labour's spending review and its commitment to ending the use of asylum hotels. But once the conversation moved beyond the headline promise, the answers became noticeably less specific. The presenter repeatedly asked the same basic question. If thousands of asylum seekers will no longer be accommodated in hotels, where will they actually be housed? Instead of identifying the alternative, Murray returned to familiar government arguments. He pointed to the financial problems inherited from the previous administration, highlighted $280 million for Border Security Command, and emphasized the enormous cost of keeping people in hotels. None of that resolved the question being put to him. Everyone already understands that hotel accommodation places a substantial burden on taxpayers. The unresolved issue is what replaces it. Ending hotel contracts does not automatically reduce the number of people requiring accommodation. Without explaining where those individuals will go, The government is announcing the removal of one system without clearly describing its successor. And that is why the questioning mattered. The concern is that Labour has not demonstrated how it intends to reduce the underlying pressure rather than simply relocate it. If the same population is transferred into another form of accommodation, the visible symbol of the crisis may disappear, while the fundamental problem remains. And the interview was about to become even more uncomfortable. The discussion then moved to the Gibraltar Agreement with Spain, raising another question about who benefits from the government's approach to borders. Under the proposed arrangements, British travellers crossing from Gibraltar into Spain would face passport procedures, while movement into Gibraltar from the Spanish side would operate differently under the new system. For critics, that imbalance represents another concession over British border control and raises legitimate concerns about sovereignty. Murray's defence was that the agreement serves Britain's wider economic interests by protecting trade and making life easier for businesses operating across the border. But that answer exposes the deeper frustration. From the government's perspective, commercial convenience justifies the compromise. From the perspective of many voters, British citizens appear to be accepting additional restrictions while European priorities receive greater accommodation. That disconnect helps explain why trust in Westminster continues to deteriorate. Governments announce ambitious deadlines, package policies into attractive slogans, and promise that difficult problems are finally being solved. Yet when politicians are confronted with straightforward questions about how those promises will actually work, the details often become much harder to find. And that brings us back to Labour's Asylum Hotel pledge. Is the government withholding the details because it knows the alternative accommodation will be deeply unpopular? Or has it announced the destination before working out how to get there? Tell me which explanation you believe in the comments below. If you found this breakdown useful, like the video, share it, and subscribe for more from Raw Media. I'll see you in the next one.